think it just feels very honored to be appreciated for something that you love to do. So radio has always been a passion for me more than a job. So it's really nice to be awarded for something that you love to do. Industry has definitely grown in paces. Phase 1, phase 2, we're currently on phase 3. The growth has really come from radio expanding into newer markets. So private FM is only about 15 years old, and but it's grown into, you know, a lot of C-tier towns and B-tier towns, smaller towns, etc., where entertainment is actually lacking a bit. So that is where I think the growth has really come from. However, I do think that the radio industry is still very, very regulated, unlike the internet or television. And therefore, we don't have news and current affairs, and there are other restrictions on private FM radio. But radio is a very, very powerful medium. And the medium in itself is strong, plus it is expanding into smaller markets has led to the overall growth of the industry. I think the one thing that really makes Red FM stand out is the fact that we have managed to create a very, very big youth connect. So there are various channels in the competitive space. But having said that, I think what Red FM has been able to achieve is a very strong connect between the age group of 12 to 34 years. We've been true to our promise of being Bajate Raho, which is, I think, an extension of a lot of people. So we call ourselves a provocative entertainer. And we have been able to stick to that promise. And I think that's what really makes Red FM stand out. And besides the fact that there is music and local content, etc., we're slightly more bold. We like to be a little aggressive. We like to innovate. We take a lot of risks in terms of our programming, in terms of some of the content that we do. And we've taken up challenges very boldly, and that's something which sets us apart. One, to me, this is not I don't look at it as a job. It's a hobby turned into a career. So I really don't feel that I'm actually doing a job. But having said that, we've got a fantastic team there. I mean, what Red has been able to do is to invest into a very good team. And because of that, they are all in sync in terms of taking risks, taking challenges, looking at creating new content, being innovative, etc. So day on, I think the work is very challenging and it's interesting. So it keeps us on our toes all the time. Plus, radio is also a lot of micromanagement. So unlike television as an industry, FM radio is local in nature, so there's a lot of micromanagement which happens.
Every city has its own flavor.
Yes, flavor, ethos. So it's not one size fit all or cookie cutter programming. So it's different. So, as I said, to be in radio, you need to be on your toes. I started my career as a radio jockey. So I was giving my economics exam and I was bored of it, and I was listening to the radio. I was listening to the radio, and there was this announcement in those days on All India Radio inviting RJ auditions, etc. So I just thought I'll go and try that, and I got selected. So that's how my journey in radio started. I started off as an RJ. After that, I went on to become a journalist, and I'm a Chevening scholar. I've been trained by the BBC. So I was in news and current affairs for some time, and dabbled with film documentaries and stuff like that. But then I had to come back to radio. That's always been the first love. And that's how the journey started. Just love doing it. I mean, in the I think if you love doing what you do, then you don't really think, you'll never get tired of it. So you really need to love the medium or to love your work in general to enjoy what you do. So I'm a very hands-on person. Having been an RJ and grown up the ladder, I understand a lot of nuances and concerns and issues that keep coming up, etc. So I'm quite hands-on. And I love to deep dive and get into it once I take on a project. I would like to think I'm fairly approachable to the team as well. I often talk to the middle level and the junior level teams because they are out there shaking hands and kissing babies. So you get to know a lot of things from them, a lot of feedback about what's happening in the market. So I think being approachable, and I love taking risks and challenges. So maybe these three to begin with. I think that to be a successful leader, you need to be very adaptive to your environment. You cannot be rigid about things at all. So I do think being adaptive is very, very important. You need to lead by example. It's very easy to sit and tell what people need to do, but then if you can lead it by example, it just inspires people and motivates them to do better. Being aware of what is happening in and around the industry and around, so that you can take wiser decisions. What else? Be unbiased, I think some of us over the years, having got a lot of experience, sometimes become a little rigid in terms of our thinking and thought process. I think we need to be a little more unbiased. And perhaps lastly, invest in people, invest in a good team, train them, and build them to be leaders of the future. I think that would be how I would call a successful leader. I don't want to sound like a spiritual leader, but I mean, I think success is about being happy and perhaps also good health. Being happy doing what you do, I think that is what it is. I mean, I would like to be remembered as someone who's left a legacy or done some good work in radio, and be happy about it. You need to be passionate about things. I think the one thing which a couple of things which I strongly believe in. One, you need to be really, really passionate about what you do in general. You need to take a lot of risks and challenges. If you don't take risks, you will never grow. And constantly, especially the radio industry, for instance, we are surrounded by an ecosystem which is constantly changing, especially with the digital boom and things like that. So it's extremely important to innovate, to take risks, to take up challenges, etc. And I think if this is on, and we need to be very consistent with these traits. It's not a one-off. I think equal rights for both men and women, and that's, I think, when women can speak up their mind and be respected and given equal status, I would think that it is. So I often say this, that even as Red, we should not look at ourselves as a radio station. We're not a radio station, we're a brand. And radio is one of the many things that we do. So even for Red FM, for instance, we branched out into on-ground and events and concerts in the music space, in the comedy space. We've also branched out to the digital and the online space. So I think once you build the brand, it is the brand that you need to really build further, not the medium in itself. But having said that, the next 5 years would see a lot of geographical expansion of FM radio into other markets, one. Two, hopefully news and current affairs is something which we've been fighting for as an industry, should be allowed, because there's no reason why it's allowed on print, television, regional markets, etc., but not on a very powerful medium like radio. And I think these two things, once it comes into play, there will be a lot of growth in the sector, because radio is not really looked upon as a serious medium. Currently, unfortunately, it's looked upon as a medium which provides only entertainment. But in the midst of calamities, for instance, the Kerala floods that happen right now, no television's working, there's no newspaper, there's no telephone, but radio will continue to work, and that's the power of the medium. And therefore, I think easing out certain regulations for radio is very critical. But then you need to not have a monopolistic approach to radio, and I think you should open it to most of the radio players as well. And in fact, if you see, most of the players have news gathering units or capacities. So most of the players do have sister concerns which either run a newspaper or a television, etc. So it's only imperative that we sort of, I mean, the most natural course would be to allow news and current affairs on radio. First point is that not every news is political news. There's a lot of other news which is there. So news is definitely informative, and currently most of the radio stations do take a lot of information, and absolutely, and we all do it. But I'm just saying that allowing news and current affairs opens up the industry for more players to come into the competitive space, for the industry to grow. So I'm saying even after 15 years of being here, we're still on a 4% ad pie. So in a much larger broadcast industry, radio is only 5% of the entire broadcast sector. So for it to grow, that 4% ad pie to also grow, I'm saying opening up, let's say, sports commentary or news and current affairs, it just allows more variety to come into programming, and therefore more the players, different kind of content, the ad pie is likely to grow. It's not that I think people don't want to listen to ads. I think after excess of anything is bad, is what we always hear. So I'm saying yes, in an hour when the ads do increase more than a stipulated time, it gets a little irritating. But having said that, I think just to ease that out, I come back to the whole point of regulatory aspect. Until the regulatory aspects are not eased out. So for instance, I'm saying a frequency in Mumbai, which Red FM has in the form of Magic FM. We paid something approximately about 123 odd crores for a 15-year license. Or in Delhi, another radio station took it for about 170 odd crores. Now, to make it into a profitable business venture, one needs to play the ads. I'm saying, so while while
I understand.
but then I think the radio players become smarter. We all play ads at the same time.